Welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Show Recap Podcast. This last weekend I had two shows. I had one down in Springfield at the Trading Post, and then the second one was at Smith's Tap in Flanagan. So the first night we drove down, we were running a little bit late, it was just low in I, but other than that, besides being a little bit late, everything went pretty smoothly. It was just a good night all around. There were not a ton of people, but there was a good amount of people, and about halfway through, they were pretty into what we were doing, especially Laura Lynn's stuff. She started singing like a lot more than she had been previously, so she probably did 9 or 10 songs throughout the night. Usually she only does probably 3 to 5, so it was quite the upgrade on that. So, which was nice because my voice wasn't too bad this week. Definitely on the mend, but still a little bit rough. And I went ahead and tuned back to standard tuning. So there's an adjustment period. Kind of once you kind of get used to playing a half step down, then you have to replay everything in a few times to kind of get back in the norm. So it was good that she was there to kind of cover me. But yeah, it was a good night. I've been doing a different sound setup most of the time. So I've been doing I have a couple of the Yamahas, the 10-inch powered Yamahas, about 700 watts. And then I have a little alto. So I use one of the Yamahas as the main. The other isn't my monitor, so I can hear exactly what it sounds like behind the board, or behind the main, and with the board next to me. And then the little alto I use for Laura Lynn's monitor. And I've been dialing her pedal in a lot better, and I think that's helped out a lot as well. So, yeah, it was a good show. We got a lot of compliments after, and there was just like a group of people that were really digging Laura Lynn's songs. So it was really, what ones was it? It was Creep was a good one. Fix You, they really dug that. So a couple of the covers. And then we ended up I think we got back around 1, no, it would have been 1:30 or 2. And it was super windy. Something that's been happening a lot lately with the weather changing is it's just been so windy outside. I really noticed it back a couple weeks when we were back in Iowa. On the way back, we had to drive it was the interstate, so it was like we were driving 40, 50 miles per hour for most of it. And coming back from Iowa, you're driving through Peoria, which has a lot of hills. So when you get to the top of the hills, or the ups and downs, it can get pretty, I could feel like my car kind of jerked pretty hard. So it was kind of the same way to and from Springfield the other night, even though not as much of a mountain or anything like that we were on, but definitely noticed it in the driving. So that would have been Friday, and like I said, it went all pretty good. Sounded pretty good, getting used to that muscle memory. And then Saturday we were over at Smith's Tap. Laura Lynn set that one out. She wasn't feeling too good, so I called Dave last minute, and he just said that he could go. It was St. Patty's Day, so it was cool that that's what he wanted to do, even though it was last minute. So we got there almost on time. We were a little bit running behind, but it was a crowded bar right from the get-go. So that was, a little bit tough. Because it's kind of a skinny bar already, but then when it's packed with people, you're having to really squeeze and say excuse me a lot, or sorry, pardon me, all that, get all our stuff inside, which that took way longer than it normally would, and we ended up I got everything plugged in and everything, but, when there's people staring at you waiting for you to play, we just wanted to get going, so I kind of just left the settings from where they were the night before at the Trading Post, and we just got right into it, which was good for about 5 songs, and I don't know, I kept turning it up a little because the crowd was kind of loud, and eventually we just got this terrible feedback, and since they didn't do a proper sound check, I didn't know what was doing it, and it was a lot of loud, long squealing. So the crowd hated that, of course. But so that was like the second hurdle. The first hurdle being getting all our stuff in to a crowded bar when there's not really a alternative route to get in. And then the second thing was it started squealing really bad. Other than that, though, I'd say that was my best vocal show in a long time. So my vocals felt like normal. I'm a little hoarse right now, and I don't know why. But maybe it's just the 2 nights of singing 3 hours in a row. I don't know. But trying to take the practice a little bit easier. But anyway, so overall, played a lot of originals that night, and everybody was really digging the covers. So there was like what's called a community sale there. So people were there since 10 a.m. drinking, and I think a lot of them probably would have left if we weren't playing. There's only like 2 bars in Flanagan, so you really only have the 2 options. So it was good for the bar, I think, to have us there because we kept the people around, and they were kind of digging it right from the get-go. So you didn't have that like grace period, like letting people kind of get drunk before they get into it. It was just like they were into it immediately, which was nice. And I think both Dave and I performed pretty well. So it was a good show all around. We ended up doing an extra like 20 minutes for some extra tips, and we made some good tips. So that's always a bonus. This was kind of a weird show, like booking wise, because initially I talked to somebody that was booking there, and they were like, "Yeah, we want to have you that night," and then like a month later told me that they wanted to cancel, which was a little bit annoying, just because if you do that, if you cancel out a band with like a month or less before the show, there's a good chance they're not going to get anything to fill that date. And it's like the biggest drinking day of the year, so we wanted to have a show that night, and we were thinking that there was a good chance that we wouldn't. So, but it ended up working out. I talked to the gal who used to book for us over there, and she still is affiliated with them. So I kind of just in passing mentioned, I was a little disappointed about it, and she was like, "Well, that's no good," and she totally went above and beyond to fix it, and I think it turned out to be the right call. But anyway, so those were the shows this weekend. I'm starting to feel a little bit normal vocally. I can at least sing in standard tuning and not squeak too many times. But this weekend we got 3 shows. We have one up in Chicago at the Houndstooth Saloon, which I don't play up in Chicago a lot, and it's probably for the better most of the time. It's hard to get in anywhere up there, and then they're really picky about pay. So like this place gave us a guarantee. It's not as big of a guarantee as we would get most other places, but they do have their own sound, which is kind of nice. We don't have to lug as much stuff up there. But it's hard to play up in Chicago for us because we don't have as much of a draw up there, and it's a long drive. The bars usually don't want to pay us unless we have a big draw. So it's hard to like build any sort of following up there because we don't play up there very consistently. But it's hard to play up there consistently because we don't have a draw and they don't pay very well. And there's like 1,000 bands. So, you're just a little fish in a big pond up there. So, but anyway, we're excited to be up there for the first time in a long time. Last time I was up there, I think played at the Elbow Room a few times, and then which is like a kind of grungy rock club, which is pretty cool. And then we've played up at the House of Blues a long time ago, which that was probably the coolest thing we've ever done. But we did that up there. But again, it's just kind of hard to get anything consistent. So we're kind of hoping that this place will maybe be into the idea of us playing once every few months up there, and maybe we can start to develop, a little bit of a following. Friday night we're over at Houdini's in Leroy, and then Saturday we're up in Clayton's Tap, up at Clayton's Tap in Morris, which that last show that we played there was not my favorite. I brought the wrong sound setup apparently, and we just got Laurelyn's vocal pedal like right before that, like pretty much that was the first time she ever used it, and we didn't really know what we were doing with it, so I couldn't get her vocals loud enough, and I didn't have enough monitors, and I didn't have enough. I used my JBL as like the main, which JBL is good for like single acoustic shows, but anything more than that, I feel like it's just, not enough, and the acoustic never really sounds that great through it. So sometimes I'll use like a separate amp for my acoustic guitar. But anyway, so that I'm excited. I'm excited they wanted us to come back. I mean, they said that night that we sounded great, and we probably sounded okay by the end of the night, but I don't think the beginning was very good because I was trying a bunch of weird stuff with my vocal pedal too. It's just a lot of, and we were late and couldn't find a place to park. I ended up having to park like a mile and a half away, and then I was like trying to frantically setting stuff up, and Dave and Lo were there. But by the end, we probably sounded okay, and people were digging it, the covers that we were doing. And I think a lot of the people that normally play there are kind of more on the country side of stuff, so the covers we do, I think, were almost refreshing in a way. But so I'm looking forward to that show. I'm glad they're having us back, and I think we booked maybe 3 or 4 more shows over the summer with them, so that'll be a lot of fun. But anyway, so that was what's coming up this next weekend and what happened last weekend. I appreciate anybody who took the time to listen. I'm probably going to be talking next week about some band-related announcements, so that'll be interesting. Not sure how that'll go. I'm not sure how it's all going to pan out quite yet, so that's why I'm not really saying anything, but so that'll be next week. Anyway, thanks for listening. Have a good rest of your week.